1 week before the Wacken show, he calls me and says, "Hey, by the way, do you want to sing at Wacken with us?" But, what?
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I am Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time on the channel, hit subscribe right now. We are in the middle of a golden era for female-fronted symphonic metal. And one of the bands that is driving this whole new wave is Visions of Atlantis. The band just released a new phenomenal live album supported by a full orchestra. And I sat down with singer Clémentine to discuss the album, what the band is working on, and her journey to today. Well, Clémentine, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on the new live album. That's exciting. It's out for almost 2 weeks now. How are the reactions so far?
Amazing. We got so many stories of our fans who've been waiting to have the product in their hands, and they made all kind of montage of putting the like those who got the deluxe edition, with the flag, with the T-shirt and everything, and they share their enthusiasm about receiving the product and then watching it. And from the media and from the market itself, like we got an amazing feedbacks from the press, and we charted. It's kind of rare for live material, like live albums and live DVDs, to ever reach the charts, and we made it. Like we made it with this one. It's wonderful. We can't believe that.
I mean, it must be fun for you as well to relive basically that show, because it's been a while since that show was actually performed. Is it now rough knowing what that sounds like to go back to regular shows without a full orchestra?
I would love to go back to any regular shows.
That is fair. That's fair.
Actually, it was planned this year that we would play with orchestra again. It was planned at Metal on the Hill and Masters of Rock that we would play with this orchestra again. And we know what happened with festivals this year. So, yeah, I mean, any kind of shows would be nice to play.
Yeah. You've mentioned before, I think in one of your blogs, that one of the key things that are really important for you is to be extremely well prepared. Does that mean that when you play with an orchestra, where all of a sudden the room for error is so large and so many things are involved, does that make you extremely excited for a show, or are you just really worried about anything that can go wrong?
I think it's a mixture of both things. We didn't have the luxury to prepare as much as actually something like that would have required, to just double check that everything works perfectly. We had the chance to rehearse with the orchestra, of course, beforehand in the studio properly, like to listen that everything goes fine. And we rehearsed on on show day, but it was pretty much like, does everything work? Yeah. Can we double check? No. So we were extremely nervous. I can tell you, this was the show where I had never seen my bandmates be as nervous as for these shows.
I won't call them singles, but the videos that have been released up front to promote, they've all been from, the more recent history of the band. And so I very much appreciate that you guys are not dwelling too much on the past and really look like, hey, this is the band, we're moving forward.
Oh yeah, okay.
One of the songs that you released as a live single, let's call it, is the song "Release My Symphony," which is in the grand scheme of things, is a very recent song for the band. If I had to place bets, I'm gonna say that this is going to be Visions of Atlantis' anthem going forward. I know that you like that song as well. At least you posted some ideas about it. What makes this song stand out for you?
I think for me, on that record, and since quite a long time, this was the most symphonic piece that Visions of Atlantis had ever released. And this is exactly the kind of music that I loved in symphonic metal, exactly the kind of music that I wanted to make. I wish that we go on with that kind of pieces that are just longer, take the time to make you dive into a complete atmosphere and universe and explore epicness and intimacy in the same track. I love that.
Yeah.
progressive music lover, so I love change of moods.
Yeah.
So that's why to me this song has that that richness, and it takes the time to be, and I love that. We're currently writing our next record. This pandemic has deprived us the ability to tour, but gave us time.
Yeah.
And I would say that thanks to this pandemic, Michele and I have been able to actually be in the studio together and discover that not only are we good accomplices on stage, like we found a very nice chemistry when we play live together. We have fun with each other. We there's that natural bond that just exists. We have the same in the studio. We have so much fun. We're like two kids, and we just open up and we write our songs, we write our music, we let it flow, we don't judge it. This new record would definitely, it's a bit too early to talk about the big
Sure.
guidelines of it because it's not finished. We haven't decided on all the songs yet. But for those who come from the collaboration between Michele and I, it's richer, it's more metal, it's more symphonic, it's more personal and more epic in a way. So hopefully this will stay in the final product.
Whenever I listen to the newer versions of Atlantis, when I see the live album, a theme that comes to mind for me is inclusion. And I also very much like how, you introduced the band as, we're visions of Atlantis from Austria, France, Italy, and from the Czech Republic, which was nice to include everybody on the orchestra as well. You've been very open quite recently in writing about your own history and dealing with a lot of bullying when you were growing up and being the outsider for a number of different reasons. It's clear that making everybody feel welcome and at home and not judging is very important to you. Is that a direct result from that?
Oh yeah, definitely. When you know how it feels to be rejected, when you know how it feels to be left aside for a reason, how people just depict you, judge you, I never want anyone to feel this way around me. Sometimes I keep my distance in some moments, and I can feel pretty reserved or introvert. It's because I'm both an introvert and an extrovert, and sometimes it's hard for me to be an extrovert when I feel like I just want to preserve my own energy. But yeah, to me, it's super important that the people you work with, the people you meet, the people you interact with, just feel welcome to be who they are and not judged. I think it's something that I don't even think of, but it's been part of my DNA now. It's like I always want to have people feel like they have the right to exist in the same space.
Yeah. Another thing that you touched on in that same article, I believe, is that you saw the light when it comes to music when I think you were introduced to Evanescence in 2005, and that's when you discovered metal. I think that's the same year that I saw Visions of Atlantis live for the first time.
Wow.
Just to put things in perspective. When did you, for the first time, were introduced to Visions of Atlantis?
Back in 2000, I was 18 or 17, so yeah, a couple of years after, like right maybe the period I was listening to Nightwish, and I was taking those singing classes, and I think I bought a magazine and I saw that they were looking for a new singer already back then, and I didn't know them. I had never heard of them. It was like I started to listen to metal, and I checked them out, and I really liked the music, and I thought maybe I can try, maybe I can apply, and then I thought, Clemmy, you're 17.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a bit too early, and I didn't dare. And then Maxine came in, and when I joined the band in 2013, I had to think back of me looking at that announcement and deciding not to go, and finally ending there. And sometimes I wonder, would I still be part of the band if I had applied? Would have been the singer? Like, maybe they would have said no back then. It's so funny, destiny.
Yeah.
Take my hand, make a stand, and then hold your breath. See what comes, see what runs in the face of death. How is it that you never seem to worry?
Should we consider Visions of Atlantis today as still the same band as 2005?
We feel like this band is like 3 years old, because the energy we brought in when we released The Deep and the Dark, how it brought us back on stage, and how it opened the door to our new tour life. Having Michele join in, it just feels like we're 3 years old, even though we know we have a past and a history, and a lot of people who still follow the band today discovered the band years before. Mm-hmm. We, in our energy, in our approach to our music, and our concept, and the project itself, and how we want it to grow, and how we feel like towards our audience, towards other artists, we feel young.
Yeah.
We feel young. It took us 5 years to create that album. During those 5 years, we were playing a couple of shows here and there, but Visions was not so much on my mind. It was part of the music I was doing, but it doesn't have the room that it takes in my life right now. And we have so much. We know we have so much to give still. We can't say like we're 20 years old. We have 20 years experience and we've been around for 20 years. We don't feel like that at all. That's why we didn't celebrate this year Visions of Atlantis being 20 years old, because it doesn't feel that way.
To be honest, you are the person that pulled me back into Visions of Atlantis when I saw the band several times, and then I kind of lost track of the band, and then what kind of pulled me back in was seeing you on stage with Kai Hansen for his 3 Decades in Metal, show. How did you get involved in that project? Like that was a pretty significant milestone.
In the most natural and yet surreal way. I was with Siggy on our former singer, on the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise. We were just strolling in the corridors of the ship, going for a drink or something, and then we crossed way with Kai. Siggy was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" Because they know each other. And Kai was like, "Oh, well, I'm not doing much. Let's grab a drink." And we ended up, the 3 of us, and then all the people came in, and it's party time, and we went along very fine. I didn't know him at all, and
oh, really?
He's a musician. I'm a musician. We just thought we'd have a nice time, and then he told me about his solo project, and he said, "I'm still looking for a female singer. I want female vocals on that album." And then he looks at me and he says, like, "Do you want to sing on my record?" I was like, you had just too much mojito right now. And so I was like, "Sure." The cruise stops and we got off the boat, and actually we meet again there, and he said, "I remember you. We'll get in touch." And I was like, "Yeah." He said that just because it was the party night and so on. I didn't take that word too much for granted. And well, like a couple of weeks later, after the cruise, he sent me an email and says, "I double checked you on YouTube, and I definitely want you to sing with me on my record." And I went to his place in Hamburg and recorded the songs. And then 1 week before the Wacken show, he calls me and said, "Hey, by the way, do you want to sing at Wacken with us?" But, what? Really? I was new to those kind of huge stages. I had never done a collaboration with a guy of this kind, like of this aura, and so I was impressed, and it was an amazing experience. But sometimes it's just you have to stroll in corridors of places.
There you go. Talking about influences, you've also mentioned that we really have to thank The Little Mermaid for your singing career, because that's what got you into the arts, if you will.
Yeah.
Visions of Atlantis has a certain, and I mean this as a compliment, a Disney quality to it. You know, where songs tell stories. It's big, a lot going on. Taking the music or taking the concept of the band beyond just music and shows, that's something that you would be thinking of? For there's several songs by themselves that could be the base of an interesting story, whether that's a book or a movie or a musical show or something like that. Is that something that you're thinking about?
That's a very nice question. We are aware of the potential of indeed creating stories and creating like sort of a theater thing going on stage, and we actually want to dive a little bit in that. And I think our next record would have Michael and I's interaction be a little bit more thought through on some songs to create that, because actually on stage him and I were naturally doing this, like we embody the characters of the songs, and sometimes we both say the same thing, we share the same message, so we're just together like yay, and sometimes we are one against each other, or trying to lure the other person or so, and we naturally ended up acting on stage the meaning of our songs, and it created diversity in the show. It created tension, created variety, and created surprise. Like we still want people to have fun during our shows. We want to entertain them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly like how we could push our show further to go in that direction of be more storytellers. I like it with our songs these days is that they have a theme, but they're still quite open for interpretation. And we've seen with some of our songs, people's interpretation is like can be so
off the charts.
Unexpected that we want to keep that openness, but definitely we sense the potential of having people dive more into a story that we could tell. We definitely want to take them on journeys to foreign places. Anyway, we won't stop doing that. Till they can hear heroes of the dawn as they show. What I've been writing for Visions of Atlantis has always double meaning. When I talk about the Kraken, you can just totally decide that this is the real creature. For me, it's your inner demon. Yeah. So the Wanderers has this bright sparkle of hope of being like, yes, that's what we have to do. We have to leave. We have to embrace our journey. We have to embrace who we are, release our own symphony, each every one of us, and be wanderers. We have to get lost before we can find ourselves. This was like the thought that sort of drove me through the entire concept. And this is all pretty much connected to my own personal evolution. So it's funny. And now I've been with the lockdown and everything through another phase that is slightly darker, because at some point when you really want to get to know yourself and accept yourself and be able to embrace life, you have to accept everything about you, everything about life, even the things that are hard, that are sad, that are tragic. It's part of it. You can't resist what happens that you can't control. You have to let go. And when it comes to yourself, things happen in the past that hurt you, created deep wounds, and those wounds sometimes talk through defense mode, through ego, through as a person that hurt others, and you have to face your own darkness and to accept it if you want to move forward. So I think that record is sort of like the ship is at sea from Wanderers. It's been launched and it's gonna face storms and dark areas and meeting pirates. Like
More
that.
Krakens.
More Krakens. Like I think we're gonna hit the storm. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think the live album is really fun. I think it's a great introduction for people to the new Visions of Atlantis.
Yeah, I think so too.
Really great to see that. I'm very excited that you guys are working on new material, so it'll be exciting to see what's gonna come out. And if you showcase your abilities as much as you've done on the live album with Memento, for example, which was a phenomenal performance. So that's gonna make a lot of fans extremely excited. So thank you so much, Clémentine, for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for opening up. And I hope we get to talk in a year or so when we talk about the Clémentine solo project or the Visions of Atlantis Part 2.
I'll be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Alright, so if you like that video, click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.